There comes a moment when the world turns quiet around you. The things you used to chase lose their shine. The voices that once pulled you in every direction begin to fade. You look at your own hands and they feel strangely distant, as if they belong to someone you no longer recognize. And in that quiet distance, something inside you whispers that life cannot continue exactly as it has been. You stand at the threshold of something you cannot name. You feel it when you wake and stare at the ceiling before moving. You feel it when the old ambitions no longer ignite the same fire. You feel it when familiar dreams dissolve like mist. A sense of emptiness follows you, not heavy, just vast, like a clearing in the forest where the trees have stepped aside. You do not know if this clearing is a blessing or a wound. You only know you can no longer pretend nothing is changing. There is a strange peace in this emptiness. A strange discomfort, too. It is as if your inner world has turned into a still lake. No wind, no ripples. And you find yourself leaning over that mirror, searching for the person you used to be, wondering why their reflection no longer calls your name. You sense that something essential is slipping through your fingers, yet some deeper part of you is relieved. You try to hold on to meaning the way you always did. You try to care the way you used to. But the old emotions refuse to rise. The old fears lose their grip. The old desires feel like shadows projected on a wall. It confuses you. It scares you. And yet, beneath the uncertainty, a quiet truth flickers, like the first hint of dawn behind the mountains. You are not falling apart. You are approaching a threshold. When nothing matters the way it did, the soul is whispering that you are ready to cross into a new way of seeing, a new way of being. Something ancient has begun to stir in the silence within you, and the path will reveal itself if you dare to look at what this emptiness is trying to say. There is a moment in every inner journey when the structures you built to feel safe begin to loosen. You do not choose this moment. It arrives the way night arrives after a long day. Quiet, certain, unstoppable. You notice it first in the soft exhaustion beneath your thoughts. Then in the way your heart stops responding to the familiar rewards of the world. What used to feel solid now feels like smoke drifting through your fingers. This is the threshold the old mystics knew well. The borderland where the ego grows tired of carrying its own weight. The stories you crafted about who you are start to tremble. The armor you wore begins to crack. And in those cracks, a different light seeps in. Not blinding, not loud, just a soft glow that touches the parts of you that never learned how to speak. You sense the presence of your own shadow rising from the depths. Not to frighten you, but to remind you of everything you tried to forget. Old wounds move beneath the surface like rivers under stone. Old fears breathe again, not to punish you, but to ask if you are ready to finally see them. The psyche opens its hidden doors and invites you to step deeper. You feel the tug of something ancient, something that belongs to you. This emptiness that scares you is not a mistake. It is the moment before a new identity forms, the space where the old self dissolves so the deeper self can emerge. When nothing matters anymore, the unconscious begins to reveal what has always mattered. The true longing beneath all longings, the quiet voice beneath all the noise, the real path beneath the footsteps you kept repeating. You stand between two worlds now. The world you built to survive and the world you were born to inhabit. The threshold is narrow. It asks for silence. It asks for courage. It asks for the willingness to let the old patterns burn the way a forest must burn before the next spring arrives. This is the alchemy of the soul, the fire that consumes what is false so the truth can breathe again. Stay here a little longer. Feel the stillness. Feel the trembling. Feel the space inside you expand like a temple waiting for your presence. The threshold is already opened. The rest of the journey begins the moment you stop running from the emptiness and let it become the doorway it was always meant to be. There comes a day when you wake and the world feels slightly out of focus. The colors are the same, yet something within them has dimmed. You move through your routine as if walking through a dream. Familiar rooms seem distant. Conversations pass through you like wind through an empty corridor. You feel suspended between breaths, caught in a quiet space where your thoughts no longer bind you the way they once did. It is unsettling to realize how much of your identity was woven from things that no longer touch you. In this quiet unraveling, the unconscious begins to rise like a tide. Memories you buried return in whispers. Emotions you avoided appear at the edges of your awareness. The persona you crafted starts to feel like a mask that no longer fits your face. You sense a subtle pull, as if something deeper is asking for your attention. Jung knew this moment well. The moment when the psyche refuses to maintain what is false. When the shadow steps forward not as an enemy, but as a long-forgotten companion. You may feel as if you are walking through a forest at dusk. The trees stand tall around you, silent, patient, ancient. A faint path appears beneath your feet, but you do not know where it leads. Each step feels both familiar and foreign. You hear the crackle of branches under your weight, and the echo reminds you that you are not the person you once believed yourself to be. The forest mirrors your inner landscape. Wild, uncertain, honest. You pause in this dim light and sense the shift inside you. The old self is loosening. The old fears are dissolving. The old meaning is slipping away. Yet something quiet and sincere begins to rise. You feel its warmth like a candle flickering in a temple. You do not fully understand it, but you know it is calling you deeper. And this call prepares the ground for what comes next. There is a moment when the silence inside you becomes impossible to ignore. It does not threaten you. It does not rush you. It simply waits. You try to fill it with noise, with motion, with the familiar comforts of your old life, but the silence remains. It feels like standing before a mirror that reflects more than your face. It reflects the weight you have carried for years, the expectations, the fears, the longing for certainty, and beneath all of that, a truth you have never dared to name. As you stand in this inner stillness, the psyche begins to reveal its hidden architecture. You see how every desire was shaped by a deeper hunger, how every fear was a shadow cast by something forgotten. The unconscious moves like a river beneath your thoughts, carrying images and feelings you did not know were yours. Jung understood this river as the living current of your own becoming. It rises when the ego grows tired of resisting. It opens when the old identity can no longer contain the life that wants to emerge. You feel this river pulling you inward, guiding you toward the source. The journey feels like descending a narrow staircase carved into the stone of an ancient temple. Each step takes you deeper, away from the noise of the outer world. Torches flicker along the walls, casting shifting shadows that dance like memories. You sense that every shadow holds a piece of you. Every echo carries a truth you once hid from yourself. You walk slowly, not out of fear, but out of reverence. And somewhere along this descent, a realization begins to form. You are not losing your meaning. You are shedding the meaning that was never yours. The emptiness you feared is only the space being cleared for a more authentic life. A deeper life. A life aligned with the rhythm of your own soul. And as this truth settles in your chest like a quiet flame, you sense that the next threshold is already waiting for you. There comes a point in the journey when you stop trying to return to who you were. Something in you finally understands that there is no going back. The old motivations feel like distant echoes. The old dreams no longer fit the shape of your spirit. You sit in the quiet of your own presence and feel a strange peace rising from the center of your chest. It is not joy. Not yet. It is something softer, like the first breath after a long night, like light finding its way through a narrow crack in a closed room. In this space, the unconscious begins to rearrange itself. The fragments of your inner world start to align. What once felt chaotic now feels like a pattern revealing itself in slow motion. You see how every loss was a turning of the wheel, how every disappointment was a door closing so another could open. You realize that the emptiness you resisted is not a void. It is a clearing, a place where your deeper nature grows roots, a place where the self begins to speak through intuition rather than thought. It feels as if you are walking along the edge of a river at dawn. Mist rises from the surface. The water carries the soft colors of an awakening sky. You kneel and touch the surface with your fingertips. The water ripples outward, carrying your reflection into gentle distortion. You recognize yourself, yet you do not cling to the image. The river becomes a teacher. It shows you that identity is fluid. It shows you that meaning changes shape when you stop trying to control the flow. It invites you to trust what moves beneath the surface. And as you stand again, something shifts. The fear of the unknown loosens its grip. A quiet strength takes its place. You sense that the threshold you feared is not an ending. It is an initiation, a passage from one way of being into another. And with this recognition, the path ahead begins to glow with a faint, steady light, preparing you for the moment of integration that waits just beyond. You begin to feel how every step of this journey has been guiding you toward the same inner door. The emptiness that once frightened you now feels like a space you can breathe in. The silence that haunted you now feels like a soft companion. You sense that something inside you has shifted, not in a dramatic flash, but in a gentle realignment. It is as if the forest around you has opened, revealing a hidden clearing where light falls differently on the earth. You look back and see how the unraveling was necessary. The fading of old meanings, the descent into your own depths, the steady return of forgotten truths. Each phase shaped you. Each shadow revealed a part of your own strength. You realize now that the threshold was never about losing everything. It was about stripping away what was too small for the person you're becoming. The self you defended for so long dissolves like mist, and in its place emerges a presence that feels more grounded, more awake, more real. In this new space, the river within you flows without resistance. The temple within you stands in quiet clarity. The night that once felt heavy now shimmers with hints of dawn. You feel the merging of light and shadow, not as a conflict, but as a union. The psyche no longer pulls you in opposite directions. It becomes a single breath, a single rhythm, a single movement toward wholeness. And as you stand at the threshold, something simple and profound becomes clear. You were never meant to stay the same. You were meant to transform. The moment you accept this, the threshold opens, not with thunder, not with force, but with a soft widening of your awareness. You feel the path ahead calling your name with quiet certainty, and you feel ready to answer, ready to walk forward, ready to meet the version of yourself waiting just beyond the veil of this moment. You stand here now with a quieter heart. The weight that once pressed against your chest has softened. The emptiness that once felt like loss has turned into space. You breathe and feel the air move differently inside you. Clearer, warmer, more honest. It is as if the inner night you walked through has opened into a dawn that does not blind you, but welcomes you. Nothing has been forced. Nothing has been taken from you. You simply became ready to see. You begin to sense that life was never punishing you. It was preparing you. Every silence shaped your awareness. Every shadow taught you how to listen. Every moment when nothing mattered revealed what truly does. You feel this truth settle into your body like a slow, steady light. You notice your thoughts rise and fall like birds on the horizon. You do not cling to them. You do not fear them. You simply watch. A gentle presence begins to guide you from within, patient and kind. In the days ahead, let this awareness walk with you. Notice the subtle pull of your own intuition. Notice how the mind tries to return to old patterns, and how the deeper self invites you into something more spacious. Let the quiet be your companion. Let the inner river show you how to flow. Let the unfolding of your own path feel less like effort and more like remembering. And as you rest in this soft clarity, you realize that the threshold was never a place you had to cross. It was a door inside your own chest, opening in its own time. And now gently it is open,